Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are tackling something that is literally changing the game when it comes to how we view workplace success. We're looking at why emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ultimate quantifiable leadership superpower. For decades, the corporate world has absolutely worshipped at the altar of technical skill and raw intellect. But as we're going to see through some really fascinating data today, the true hidden engine driving modern business isn't just about how incredibly smart you are. It's actually about how effectively you manage the emotional realities of yourself and your team.
So we've got a really clear roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The cost of turnover, 2. MIT's big discovery, 3. Goleman's domains, 4. Control under pressure, 5. Measuring EQ, and finally, 6. Cultural leadership. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The hidden cost of turnover.
42%. Look at that number. Recent Gallup data reveals this staggering reality. An astounding 42% of voluntary employee turnover is entirely preventable by managers. Just let that sink in for a second. People aren't really fleeing the company. They are fleeing bad bosses. We've all probably had that one manager who made Sunday nights an absolute dread, right? Well, when leaders fail to have proactive, meaningful conversations, or they just can't handle their own stress before an employee decides to walk out the door, the organization simply hemorrhages talent.
And honestly, the financial penalty for this is massive. Get this, the cost to replace a leader reaches roughly 200% of their salary. 200%! No way, right? But it's true. Even replacing your technical professionals costs around 80% of their salary, and frontline employees, about 40%. So high turnover isn't just some annoying HR headache, it's a massive, completely preventable drain on capital. It's the expensive consequence of leaders lacking the emotional awareness to actually engage and retain their people.
So when Gallup actually asked former employees what their manager could have done to keep them, 70% of the preventable reasons were tied to daily management. Just look at this quote right here. Treated me like a person instead of treating me like a number. It's incredibly telling. Employees leave because of emotional neglect, not just a paycheck. We are human beings. We crave positive interactions, respect, and a genuine sense of belonging.
Section 2. EQ versus IQ and MIT's discovery.
So for a really long time, we absolutely believed in this myth of the solo genius. You know the idea? If you just put the absolute smartest people in a room together, you're guaranteed the best results. Well, an MIT study led by Professor Alex Pentland discovered that this is totally false. Actually, scratch that. It's not just false, it's the opposite of reality. After studying hundreds of small groups, his team found that the average IQ of the group was only moderately linked to performance. And even more shockingly, the IQ of the absolute smartest member didn't predict team success at all. So, if raw intellect isn't the key, what is?
The answer is collective emotional intelligence. While IQ drives the cold, analytical thinking, the fluid reasoning, and the technical problem-solving, it's EQ that builds the warm, solid foundation of trust, psychological safety, and collective team innovation. The MIT team found that groups scoring highest in empathy and relationship skills were far more productive and creative. Basically, teams built on empathy and collaboration will completely outperform teams built solely on high IQs every single time.
Section 3. Goleman's 4 EQ domains.
Now, Daniel Goleman's framework completely redefined leadership by taking what everyone called a soft skill and translating it into structured, research-backed competencies. This is a real game changer because it proves that EQ isn't just some innate personality trait you're born with, it's a measurable, highly learnable set of skills.
And this framework progresses incredibly logically from the internal to the external. It starts with self-cognizance, which is all about recognizing your own emotional triggers. Then it moves to self-management, how you regulate those disruptive emotions when under pressure. From there, it expands outward to empathy and social warmth, really understanding complex organizational dynamics. Goleman also identified 6 leadership styles derived from these very domains, ranging from visionary to coaching, proving that the absolute best leaders fluidly switch styles based on their team's emotional needs. Bottom line, you literally can't lead others effectively until you know how to manage yourself.
Section 4. Cognitive control under pressure.
Because let's be honest, it's super easy to have high EQ when everything is fine and dandy. But elite leaders deploy specific, trainable executive functions when the pressure is on and deadlines are looming. First up is cognitive reframing. Instead of viewing a crisis as a massive threat, they mentally shift gears to view it as a challenge. Second, they use circle of influence focus. They don't waste precious mental energy on things they absolutely cannot control. Instead, they isolate exactly what their actions can impact. And third, thought labeling. When self-doubt inevitably creeps in, they mentally label the thought. They say to themselves, "I'm feeling anxious about this deadline." This immediately detaches them from the emotion and creates the mental space needed for rational decision-making.
Section 5. Measuring Emotional Intelligence.
Now you might be wondering, how do we even track this? While EQ is not guesswork because it dictates performance, we treat it as a hard metric and we have robust tools to measure it. The MSCIT evaluates how well people perform tasks related to emotional processing, while the TEIQ allows individuals to self-report and deeply reflect on their own emotional strengths. Then there's the reading the mind and the eyes test, which is what MIT actually used to measure deep empathy and predict team success. Finally, 360-degree feedback brings in peer perspectives to minimize our own blind spots and biases, giving organizations true empirical data on a leader's real-world capabilities.
Section 6. Adapting leadership across cultures.
This is absolutely crucial. A socially aware leader adapts to their environment. Let's say you take a North American leader, accustomed to our decisive hustle culture, where speed and individualism are highly prized, and you drop them into Europe. They are going to have to pivot, right? They need to accommodate Germanic rigor or Nordic consensus building and work-life balance. Or consider Australia, where leaders have to navigate what's known as tall poppy syndrome. Basically, boasting is penalized and humility is deeply prioritized. Having high EQ is exactly what allows you to read these complex cultural nuances and succeed anywhere on the globe.
As you can see, socially aware leaders are just exquisitely attuned to these cultural undercurrents in informal networks. Whether they are balancing North American pragmatism, European deliberation, or Australian humility, high EQ leaders foster genuinely inclusive environments. This is exactly what enables them to influence teams and drive organizational change without having to rely solely on formal authority, or worse, micromanagement. They lead through genuine connection, not just coercion.
I'll leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up today. Your technical IQ and your sparkling resume are very likely what got you your leadership job in the first place. But is your emotional quotient strong enough to keep your absolute best people from walking out the door? Take a moment to really examine your own leadership engine today. Ask yourself if you are truly managing the emotional realities of your team, or if you're just managing the tasks. Because empathy, self-awareness, and emotional control, they aren't just nice-to-haves anymore. They are the very foundation of sustainable business success. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.